Hi guys and welcome to Catch Club. We are here with one half of the tag team, Raw Tag Team Champions, and one of the greatest bros on the planet, Riddle. Riddle, welcome to France. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing pretty good. This is probably the most I've ever been in France. Last time I was here, I was at the airport, but I just stayed at the airport and flew somewhere else. So this is my first time competing in France. I'm pretty stoked.
And we are so happy that you're here, man. I'm going to ask you a few questions about everything, all your career, and I want to start at the beginning.
Sure.
Were you a wrestling fan when you were younger?
I was a huge wrestling fan when I was younger. My family, we didn't watch sports. And the closest thing to a sport we watched was pro wrestling. You know, my parents weren't really sports family. My dad was a chemical engineer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so they weren't big into sports. But then when my dad was watching pro wrestling, I started watching it, and I was hooked. Probably from like '96 to now. I was just hooked, watched it every day, had the VHS tapes I'd record. Raw, I'd record SmackDown, I'd record Saturday Morning Bash with WC, you know, like all the shows with WCW, everybody. And so I was a huge wrestling fan.
It was in you already.
I think if you're good at this, it has to be in you. Yeah. Most of the guys or women that come through here that are top notch, they were fans when they were young.
There's a passion.
There has to be.
Of course. And so then you had a good career in MMA, and in 2014 you transitioned into pro wrestling. Was that like an obvious choice?
For me, I always wanted to do pro wrestling, but I felt because of my size, I was going to get overlooked, you know, especially earlier, like in the early 2000s. But then as I kept training mixed martial arts doing that, and I saw the world of professional wrestling change, the landscape change, you know. Guys like Daniel Bryan were beating Batista and Triple H, you know, and they were the champs. And when I saw that, I was like, you know what? I think this place has changed. I don't think you have to be a giant. I think if you're highly skilled, highly charismatic, and you bring everything to the table, you cross all those T's, dot those I's, you'll get an opportunity. And I was like, I always wanted to do this. I think this is the time. And I hit the ground running.
And how hard was it for you? Was it like natural when you started?
Wrestling at first wasn't natural. Wrestling, doing all the moves, fighting, that was natural. Entertaining was not. You know, connecting with the fans on a different level, a personal level, was not the same as fighting in the UFC. So that was the hardest thing for me. And then the other thing was selling. Okay. Because I went from the UFC.
Very different, of course.
UFC, you might punch me so hard you knock a tooth out, but I'm not going to let you see it in my face. I'm just going to keep it stone cold. But in pro wrestling, you know, I get touched and I make a scene out of it.
And you just mentioned charisma.
Yes.
When did you understand that your persona was actually very important?
You know, when you first start, you don't realize that, but over time, and when you see other people say, like Randy, and Randy has sweet moves, of course, but the crowd's not getting crazy for the moves he's hitting. They get crazy for his reactions. They get crazy for his body language in between stuff. They get crazy for just the way he carries himself to the ring. And those are little things you kind of overlook when you're trying to do the moves and you're trying to do this or that. But they're the most important things. Those mannerisms, that charisma, that what do I make people feel when I walk into a room? How can I make them feel this way or that way?
Create a connection.
The connection. And also charisma is something, you know, you learn to harness, but it's something everybody has naturally. You know, some people have a little more, some people have a little less.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Randy. I wanted to talk about you being a tag team wrestler because you're an awesome solo wrestler. But since you joined WWE, you had a great run as a tag team, both in NXT and also on the main roster. Yeah. I wanted to talk about your tag team partners. Like, what did you learn teaming with Pete Dunne, aka Butch, and also Randy? Like, what did these guys teach you, and how different are they?
I'll say this, tagging with Pete in NXT, because Pete, or Butch, has a wealth of experience in wrestling. He's from the UK. He's been wrestling since he's, I think, 14. He's been doing it forever. And before I tagged with him, I rarely did tag matches, and even when I did, it was me and Jeff Cobb, and we were on the Indies. We were the Chosen Bros, and we dominated, but we were two strong singles wrestlers. And when me and Pete joined up, we were still two strong single wrestlers, but Pete has a mind for tag team wrestling and multi-man matches. So then I started picking Pete's brain and kind of learning different sequences, learning different kind of layers of layouts to put a match in. And then, so that's what I learned from Pete. But then with Randy, I learned how to do less and get the most out of it. Like, I think the last people who interviewed me said, you know, you get beat up, you do this, and the crowd's going crazy for Randy, then you finally tag him, and all Randy has to do is boom, boom, boom,
and it works.
And the crowd goes crazy. That's what they're waiting for, and it's like, but when I tagged with Pete, I would have never had that kind of hot tag. It would have been, we would have got a pop, and we would have done a bunch of moves, but it wouldn't have been, it doesn't have the same build, you know? And that's something Randy's taught me how to do, like how to build something, how to like tell that story, you know? Because if you do it right, you can do a lot less work and get way more of a reaction from it.
You know? And your career can go maybe longer.
That's what I'm doing for Randy right now.
So speaking about Randy, you were just a part of the most stupendous WrestleMania ever.
Most stupendous.
You opened night 2, and it was your second WrestleMania and your first win actually in WrestleMania. So could you just tell me how was the weekend, how was the experience? Because I mean, wrestling in a stadium in front of tens of thousands of people, how is it?
It was, WrestleMania was amazing this year. We had 78,000 people. As Vince would say, it was the most stupendous WrestleMania in history. And I will actually say, this past WrestleMania was amazing. I thought both nights were very stacked, and I felt like it had every little, like it had everything pro wrestling on. Like my dad watched WrestleMania, and you know, I would like to think he thought my match was the best, but he was like, dude, that Johnny Knoxville, he was like, those jackass guys, they really brought it. That was match of the night.
I pop for wee men, you know.
But dude, exactly. But you got to realize that's the best part about WWE. Like, we're not just doing one thing. We cater to everybody in all forms and facets of entertainment. And having Johnny Knoxville go against Sami Zayn and having all the guys, it was epic, you know. And for me to start off night 2 was awesome. I knew I hit that springboard RKO. It would be insane. And I got everything I wanted.
And so, the main event of night 1 was Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin against Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Now, let's imagine that in a few years, you have the same opportunity. Main eventing WrestleMania with a big name, a legend. Who would you choose?
Who would I choose? I mean, right now, I mean, you got Edge. He's really good, and he's with Damian Priest, you know, so that would be entertaining. I mean, the obvious answer is Brock Lesnar. You know, I've been wanting that guy for a minute, but he kind of didn't want me. But now we're kind of like this.
Because I was going to ask you
I
about
might be
that.
able to get in there now.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if I like the outcome of the match, but
You still want to fight him?
Oh, of course.
Because you had a little taste at Elimination Chamber.
I had a little taste. You know, things did not go according to plan. I think everybody would agree with that. And Brock broke out of his pod and did what Brock does, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody was ready for him, and he came in and he brocked us, you know. But yeah, but I would like that match, you know, when the time's right and the build's right, you know. And I think my 2 though, you know, because or Randy, but I don't want, you know, right now we're teaming. I only want to put that in the atmosphere, so I would say Edge or Brock.
Edge or Brock, okay. And last question about Randy. So we're celebrating 20 years of Randy Orton, which is incredible. And these past few weeks, in many interviews, he said that you were the best friend he needed, the friend he needed in WWE, and he enjoys everything more thanks to you. So I wanted to know, how do you do it? How do you do it to help him enjoy wrestling more and enjoying life more? And could you do it for me?
If you worked with me, I would do it for you. I did it for Pete. Pete did it for me. Randy does it for me. My job in this business is to make, especially my partner's life, easy. So if I can do anything to make Randy happy or make his life or job easier, I'll do it, especially if it's not hard for me. So sometimes I do a little bit of extra work and stuff like that. But I know at the end of the day, the juice is worth the squeeze, you know. Even if I get slammed a couple times, I know at the end of the day what's coming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just last question. First favorite moment that pops in your head from your run at NXT and the main roster? Something that really you can't forget that, you know?
Fight pit match when I kicked Tim Thatcher's teeth out of his mouth, and Kurt Angle picked him up.
Okay.
That was, there was a lot going on. I kicked the dude's teeth out of his mouth, and then Kurt Angle was there, and I was like, I got this legend, I kicked this guy's teeth, and it was the first ever fight pit.
Exactly.
Which, even though I lost, I still think is one of the best matches in WWE right now, and I wish they would use it more.
Well, bro, all the best. Wish you all the best. Many titles, many events, and a great career in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you, bro.
Bye.
Enjoy your day.
Bye.